G'day guys, and today I want to once again talk about censorship, namely what occurs when a topic is censored in comparison to when it is freely available to be discussed. Now the example I'll be using today is a very funny meme that has popped up in the internet. You've probably seen it yourself. It's the meme that discusses the correlation between the black population of America and the proportion of crime that they commit. And this is, based in reality. It's not just something that was made up. If we have a look at least 2016 US census data, we have, the black or African alone population accounts for 13.3%. And then we jump on the FBI crime statistics from the same year, and we can check it out and see that the murder and non-negligent manslaughter accounts in the black African population to 52.6%. So that's where the meme comes from. So if anyone says it's just made up by racists, it's not. It's based in reality. And this is the topic that I will be discussing in relation to censorship today. So it's impossible to say with 100% accuracy how this topic would be treated if our society, didn't seem to be all hush-hush about it, if it was something that was normally discussed. But once again, if we look back at history, as I like to do when talking about censorship, we can pick one of my favorite examples, which is the example of the model of the solar system. Now, back in the day, in the good old days, some would say, the Earth was considered to be the center of the solar system, and it was a big problem if you spoke out up against this. And I have a video titled "Hate Speech is Just Modern Day Blasphemy," and I talk about how Galileo got in big trouble for saying, "Look, I can objectively prove the sun is actually the center of the solar system." So back in the day, that was considered pretty hateful because that went against the doctrines of the church, and Galileo got in big trouble for that sort of thing. But nowadays, when we, look at the scientific community, it's not something that's routinely, I wouldn't even say it's routinely disputed. It isn't disputed at all. Everyone knows that the sun is the center of the solar system. And why is this the case? Why have we moved away from the Earth-centered model? It's because of empiricism. We've had a look at, reality. We've gathered more data about the solar system. We've determined, look, based on these orbits, we can't all be going around the Earth. Otherwise, we predict them to be here, but they're actually over there and that sort of thing. So looking at that, we could say, again, not with 100% accuracy, but it is possible that the correlation between black African population size and murder rates could be something that would be routinely discussed. It's just something that is acknowledged by the entirety of society, and it isn't a point of contention. And all the better, because it's not a point of contention, we don't have to go around burning people at the stake for saying certain things. We can, go about using this data to our advantage. We can, figure stuff out and go to the moon, so to speak. So that's at least a theoretical comparison to what we have today, which is a very censored topic, both transversely and downwardly. Of course, with the transverse censorship, you have the sort of, you mention it at the dinner table and everyone tells you to hush up, it's not politically correct, that sort of thing. But we also have downward censorship in cases such as Australia with our 18C, or Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, which says it is unlawful for a person to do an act, otherwise than in private, if the act is reasonably likely in all circumstances to offend, insult, humiliate, or intimidate another person or group of people. And you could construe this meme as falling under that. So that's the situation we're in. Downward censorship and transverse censorship. Now what has occurred to this topic? As some people would expect, has it completely disappeared from the world because people are threatened with violence, both, again, social and political? Well, no, of course not. When you censor an idea, it doesn't actually go away, it just moves to a new place or takes a new form. You recall on Facebook for a time there, people are, chuckling away because they're replacing the names of certain ethnicities with various big tech firms like Skype, Google, and that sort of thing. So that's an example of a topic taking a new form. I believe very briefly, it was a meme in itself. It was sort of a humorous commentary on the state of tech censorship. So in response to this censorship, both social and political, what has happened to the correlation between African population size and their crime statistics, specifically their murder rate? Well, it's turned into a meme essentially. It's an idea that is rapidly proliferated around, which makes it much more accessible to a wider group of people. When you're formally discussing this idea, it requires a bit more reading, it requires a bit more effort. And, some people might not want to do that, or they might not be willing to do that. But when you have an idea shrunk down to a meme, it can be rapidly spread around. All you need to remember is essentially the punchline, which is, despite only making up 13% of the population, blacks in America account for 52% of the murders. That's all you really need to remember. That's the sum and substance of the whole topic, and it can be rendered down into a single sentence and slapped on memes everywhere, and then of course reinvented. And this of course leads to a very humorous situation in which a topic is attempted to be squashed, but then it only causes it to proliferate more and more. Because essentially what happens is when something is declared taboo in this nature, it becomes cool and edgy and hip, and people obviously want to ride that gravy train, so to speak, so they jump aboard it and start being cool and edgy because that's what the internet's all about, especially on boards or sites such as Reddit, 4chan with anonymous posting, or semi-anonymous posting, in the case of having a profile on Reddit. And because this is such a contentious issue in our modern discourse, it always gets a reaction out of people, which only serves to proliferate the meme further, because obviously people's reactions to the meme are almost as funny as the meme itself. Often a response actually comes from the big tech platform itself in the form of banning and that sort of thing, but all that really does is encourage discussion of the topic or the meme even more, because it's even more edgy, it's even more hip. Not only is it sort of frowned upon, it's something that can get you in trouble. Now this is of course reminiscent of the sort of high school boys bathroom sort of mentality, in which because something is frowned upon, it is proliferated, it is done. Essentially people will scroll dicks on the bathroom stalls because it's funny and edgy and people don't want them to do it. That's why they do it, because it always gets a rise out of people, and it always gets people, to frown and harangue in assembly, but that's what makes it funny. You're not going to draw, or you're not going to be very tempted to draw a dick in a bathroom stall if you don't get a rise out of the teachers, but if they mention it in assembly, that's fucking hilarious. And that's sort of half the point. The other half is to make yourself look cool and edgy and be a rule breaker and get associated status and that sort of thing. So if we take this idea that the reaction to an event is a sought after commodity, that people want to go out and make people upset and humiliated and offended, we can now understand that censorship is the wrong thing to do in response to this action, to this spread of the meme, so to speak, or a spread of a certain edgy topic. If you really want it to go away, just starve them of oxygen. Don't give them any attention, because that takes, a big chunk of the fun out of the spreading of the meme or the topic. But by censoring the idea, by giving it attention and lashing out in this sort of draconian manner, it only makes it that more cool and that more funny to go around spreading the topic. Through this, I hope you can understand why censorship doesn't actually make an idea go away. It only forces it elsewhere and makes it edgy, hip, and cool. So if you do censor an idea, whether in the home, on your big tech platform, or anything like that, don't be surprised if you see it proliferate. If something gets a rise out of someone, it will be done. If someone comes up and teases you and you don't give them any reaction, are they going to do it again? Probably not. But if you get all red in the face and stamp your feet and wag your finger, then they're probably going to do it again because they've just got a rise out of you, and that's what they want. So when you censor a topic, whether within your own household, within your local community, or online, you don't actually make the idea go away. All you do is make it hip and cool and edgy and contrarian to discuss and proliferate. And you also have the bonus side effect of upsetting people who are very morally uptight, sort of normies who wouldn't dare discuss, the 13 to 52% ratio. Fact. But now you can go around trolling them silly and you will always get a reaction out of them because it is such a contentious topic. So that's about all I have to say on that. Censorship fundamentally does not work. It only serves to better spread the idea you wish to prevent. And again, looking at the example in this video, we take the statistic, the fact, of the correlation between African population size and murder rate, we attempt to squash that idea and never talk about it, and all you've ended up doing is causing it to morph into a format that is more easily spread. I imagine that much more people now know about this correlation than they would have if the idea was simply never talked about.